If you're an e-learning developer struggling to find graphics that support your courses, you're not alone. Today I'd like to share our real-world response to a question we had from one of our members, Allison Kim, about the smashing glasses pose. And I'd encourage you to reach out too if you're having trouble finding the graphics that you need for your program. Allison went on to create an amazing scenario-based course with lots of difficult to find poses. I'll share a link to that example in the show notes. So let's jump into the tutorial response from the great France Hernandez from the eLearning Art team, where she'll show you how to combine elements from these three images to get to the angry smashing poses on the right.
Hello, and thanks for your interest in the eLearning Art Library. In this video, I want to show you how easy it is to build exactly the action that you want to see in a character using our SVG-based characters. Now, to get started, I went ahead and downloaded 3 characters front-facing and 3 side-facing. You may be wondering why I've brought Dom, the workwear character, here, and my main purpose for that is to capture his eyeglasses. I'll show you how to do that right now. To ungroup any SVG character here in PowerPoint, you can either right-click and click Convert to Shape, or you can go to Ungroup and say Ungroup. The second ungroup is the one that actually unlocks all of the pieces. Perfect. Now all we need from Dom here is his eyeglasses. They have a little bit of they actually do have a transparency. You can see it over a darker color. But in this case, I think what we'll do is we'll change them to a light blue so they'll show up against a white background. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete the rest of Dom. And I'll grab those and turn them around as though they're lying on the floor. Okay, perfect. Good enough for now? Now, I wanted to point out that probably this particular description tells us is indicating that there probably be 2 different poses. Basically, we have the action of the character stomping on his glasses and the action of the character hitting himself in the head with a fist. Let's go ahead and working on him stomping on his glasses. For that, I'm going to use the side-facing pose and bring it onto the slide. I'll push this up so it's out of our way. Now we're going to ungroup this character. I often use the shortcut Control-Shift-G on my Windows keyboard to get at that a little bit more quickly. Now we want his eyes and his face to be looking down at the action that he's about to take. So I'm going to go ahead and turn his head downward a little bit. When I do that, I kind of realize that the neck also is going to need a similar angling. Okay, maybe pull that neck down a bit. Perfect. Okay, the head and the neck are ready to go. Now let's take a look at what's happening on the leg. If I pull this piece of pant leg away, you'll see that there is actually a leg underneath there. That's something that we pride ourselves on in terms of our characters, is that the full body is underneath all of the clothing parts. What I want to grab right now, and I may need to bring this one back to the front. Oh, I know the problem. Here, this is actually a short pant. Perfect. Never mind about that. I'm going to grab these parts that have to do with his left leg, his right leg, and I'm going to group them back together again. Now I have the ability to kind of pull that leg out and put it out over the eyeglasses. I need to do a similar thing with his upper leg. Control-G to group that, and then turn that. Now I'll have to adjust this one to make it look like it's coming off of that knee, and I think I'll go ahead and ungroup this and grab the foot. See if I can do that. Don't feel like I'm getting all the parts there. Okay, make a group out of that and then turn the foot a little bit so that the stomp is happening. Now we have the eyeglasses, need a little bit of adjustment. And I think I'm going to raise this whole operation up just a little bit. Put it up above. Oops. Forgot I had ungrouped all that. Come on, shoe. Okay, perfect. So I kind of want to, not necessarily capturing the moment of crushing the glasses, but capturing the moment of just about to do that. Okay. Eyeglasses are here. Play around with those a little bit. And we have the first action locked in. Let's go ahead and, since he's the only one on the slide, Control A will select everything, and Control G will bring that back to a group. Now, if I was going to take this over to, say, Storyline to use there, I could save it as a PNG, or now Storyline accepts SVGs as well. In either case, I would go ahead and right-click, Save as Picture, and save that probably to a spot where I would know where to find it when I was over in Storyline. Now let's get that second piece. Hits himself in the head with a fist. All right? So here we have him looking pretty unhappy about an action. And there's probably not too much that we need to change about this other than to swap in a fist. To do that, we can come back to this character. Sorry, this one. And let's just put a new slide in, do this work over on the new slide so things don't get mixed up with each other. I'm going to do Shift Control G and do that one more time. And all I want is this fist right here. Control C to copy it, and then I'll come over to him, ungroup him, ungroup it one more time, and I'm looking to remove that hand and add in this one. Now, depending on the exact emotion you wanted to convey, you could play around with how he was hitting himself there. Whether it was kind of a hard knock on the head, maybe up high, in which case you would want to move the whole arm a bit. Group that, move it up, maybe lengthen that. He actually looks a little bit like he's sobbing because the hand is turned outward. Something you can do here in PowerPoint, I'll have to zoom in quite a lot, is you can select it, go to Shape Format, Edit Shape, and at the moment it's a group, so it won't allow me to edit points, but let's go ahead and ungroup that. Perfect. And kind of play around with the shading just a little bit to help turn the hand. All right, I'm going to call that done. In your context, you may fiddle with it a little bit more. Of course, you can always regroup that whole hand. Send it to the back. So it looks like he's wrapping himself on the side of the head. That's kind of just a design call. You can figure that one out in your context. Now I need these eyeglasses again because we need the aftermath of his stomping. So I'm just going to pull these over. Shoot, looks like I only picked up part of that. Let me ungroup him and get this whole. Control D will duplicate it and pull it over. Now these need to look pretty crushed. I'll zoom in a bit. I'm going to press this one down so it's been flattened. I'm also going to come in and get some little triangles, take the outline off and fill it with the same color as the glasses. Control D will duplicate that. And I might take a little piece just build a little piece, like maybe the moon shape, which I always have trouble finding. Here it is. Do that in the black. Take off the outline. Kind of make it look like he broke the whole thing. Like that. Now the nose piece is broken or something. So, okay. So that can be played with probably for a half an hour just for fun. But what we want to convey is the aftermath of him dropping his foot on those glasses. Let's go a little smaller. Go ahead and collect everything. Control G to regroup it, and then simply save as picture. Choose PNG, or you can choose Scalable Vector Graphics for SVG and save it to your usual spot. Name it and save it to your usual spot. All right, so that's how you can go about changing an SVG character. Hi Allison, in regard to your latest questions, let me make a few suggestions, but this is really where you get to kind of play around and figure out what works best for you. For kind of capturing that crunching sound when he's dropping his foot, you could go to Shapes here in PowerPoint, and you could choose one of these crunchy shapes. Maybe in fact do an explosion and take off the shape outline and maybe put that in, I don't know, it could just be sort of implying it, maybe in gray. I would probably fiddle around until I got the colors right. I think maybe gold is the way to go. Then we'll need to send that one to the back and bring the glasses to the front. Oops, because they're somewhat transparent, that doesn't quite convey, does it? So let's go back to the drawing board on that one. And maybe another tack I might try would be to use the lightning bolt. I'm kind of making this up as I go along in case that's not obvious. And kind of play around with that a little bit. The foot always needs to be in the back, I think. I'm sorry, in the front relative to the crunching shape. So bring that to the front. All right. Lightning bolt's going to be useful to us in a moment too, for we can use that to make the glasses look like they're more fully crushed. Not something you were worrying about, but in a previous version of the video I actually had tried to show you that. So something like that, you can kind of play around with those just to get a sense of the impact there. Maybe that's not quite right. All right, now let's go over to, let me capture that little guy. Okay, now let me go over to the head, and actually this explosion shape might be a good friend over there. So right there, pretty quickly we've conveyed the sense that he's actually hitting his head. You know, you can always come back with some little lines that just sort of spray out. Think comic book here. We'll go to the same yellow, and if you go to weight, more lines, it will open the panel on the side. And I suggest, you know, just because I'm kind of particular about these things, put round caps on the ends, and let's make it slightly fatter. Okay, perfect. So we'll just Control D to duplicate that. Let me work a little bit larger so it's easier to catch with the mouse. Another Control D right there. So right there, you know, kind of got that whole impact thing going. I think maybe I would add some short ones in there, play around. There's all kinds of things that one could do to convey that. But mostly when I'm looking at those kinds of small details, I'll usually try to use the Shapes panel, which, by the way, insert shapes here. But it's super convenient to use your quick access toolbar in PowerPoint. So to capture that, you're going to right click and in my case, it would say add to quick access toolbar, but because it's there, it says hide. So that's a nice thing to know about. And then you can have your main tools right there, really easy to access. All right, now let's go over here and copy that one. I should have thought of this earlier. This lightning bolt can be useful sometimes. Let me make it a little larger. That's looking pretty crunched. Kind of set it in a spot where it's going to work. And then on that one, I would go to just maybe a darker version of the blue. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work right there. And you probably don't have to work on it too much more than that to get the point across because it's so small on the screen. All right, let's see. What else did you have in your email? You could totally add text that said BAM. In fact, in the eLearning library, we do have a few fonts, and I believe one of them is actually a comic book font. It's not so much that it's comic book font, but what it is it's the pieces that go in comic books, like the BAM and the POW and things like that. And so you just download the font, install it, and then you have access to all of those bits and pieces. So that's one option. Another option is simply to acquire a font that looks like comic book writing. So let's see what I have here. Put in a text box. And without belaboring this point too much, because I have a lot of fonts on my computer, somewhere here I have some kind of comic booky ones. Maybe this one. And so, just to get that comic book effect, you just sort of need to decide for your own program if that's going to be appropriate to have that sort of thing on screen. Also, kind of, is that something that's going to distract or add to the learner's experience, because it is text and it will be read, so that's important to be thinking about. Now, let's say we took all of this, and in this case, because this is a font, I'm not actually positive what will happen. Let's just find out. If I select all of this, I'm going to come in from this side. Okay. And before I do this, I'm going to make that box smaller so we don't have that big piece hanging out, and move it down just a little bit. All right. Now, I'm just simply going to right-click, right-click, and save as picture. And anything that I have in that selection should pick up as part of the save. So I'm going to call it picture 2. I've selected PNG. And I don't have Storyline open right now, but let's see. Maybe it'll open quickly enough to make this worthwhile. Story of my day, watching Storyline open really slowly. Actually, all programs open really slowly. So let me see if I can answer any more questions. There are in the library also backgrounds that are SVG based, so you could actually create the whole scene on the slide. I wasn't able to demo that for you this afternoon because I was having trouble downloading those files, but that's also a library feature, and they actually are designed to go with the designer cartoon characters, the ones that have the greatest depth in terms of age and have the teens and the kids and so forth. Alrighty, let's add a picture here. I also have insert picture on my quick access toolbar here, so picture from file, and there he is, and let's see what came over. Everything. So just to prove that that has a clear background, send that to the back. And yes, because it is a PNG. Now, you could also, over in PowerPoint, send that out as an SVG. There's not at the moment any real advantage to doing that. Scalable vector graphic. That'll be picture 3. Any real advantage to doing that for purposes of Storyline, because Storyline does now take SVGs and will allow you to put them on the slide without making a big mess. But once they're there, they're basically going to act a lot like a PNG. So I think the one advantage is because it's vector, you can make it really, really big. So if you wanted to feature that, you could pull him way out and he wouldn't break up at all. He'd still look really good when you zoomed back in. So because he's just vector based. May prove that same point for the other guy just to see what's happening there. When you output from PowerPoint, it's a little bit limited on how big the size of the PNG is. You can't really specify that. So if you're going to do something like pulling it out way out on the slide like this, then maybe SVG is going to be a better bet. But I'm not seeing any real loss of fidelity or anything. So that's a solution. One thing that I now realize is that in actual fact, it probably wouldn't be a great idea to include text on the output from PowerPoint, because you might rather actually add that in Storyline, either to animate it, maybe you could do a grow animation or something, but also if you get to the slide and you decide, no, I actually need him to face the other way, and you do, let's see, where is that? A rotate, so you flip horizontal, then it's going to not say POW anymore. And then you're going to be like, oh, darn. So, maybe keep it simple and bring your character over with some of the bells and whistles, but think about what you want to animate in Storyline and what, how confirmed you are on how your slide is going to look. I mean, for me, obviously, I'm very tweaky, so I really fiddle with things until they look perfectly right to me. And so I do that in PowerPoint, then I bring it over to Storyline, and it's kind of another iteration of doing that. So maybe be a little bit thoughtful about how your workflow goes. So I hope that was helpful, and I answered all your questions. Bruises and marks. Okay, so bruises and marks, I'll go back to PowerPoint for that one. That's probably pretty easy. He's kind of hitting himself on the side of the head, so we probably wouldn't say that, but let's see it rather. But let's say we wanted to add a little blob right there. Just go ahead and maybe bring in an oval, I think would be the easiest. So that's just this one. And we'll kind of align that to his face, more or less. And let's give that kind of a purpley bruise color. Just a second, I'm going to go to more fill colors and get that a little bit redder. Okay. Remove the outline as usual. I don't know why they put that on there automatically. Okay, it's looking pretty gruesome right at the moment, but we'll get there. Now go to Shape Effects. Drop down to, Soft Edges, and then play a little bit with the points. If the shape is pretty small, then these higher, like the deeper the soft edge goes, the more likely your shape will simply disappear. So it's looking like the best we can do for this size shape at the moment is about a 5-point soft edge. Okay, so that's looking good and kind of bruisey. Now, last thing I would do is you can click here and that will open the side panel, and then put a transparency on it so that it just has that kind of growing bruise look to it. And there you can fiddle with the color if it's not quite right and so forth. So you can do a lot, and you can do a lot just right here in PowerPoint. You get your character set up and then you start adding these little things that really, really sell what it is that you're trying to show.
If you enjoyed this video, please sign up for our free mini course on customizing e-learning graphics. You'll build the skills you need to solve graphics problems in your e-learning courses. Subscribe to get more content like this, and click on the video links to get started with the next tutorial.